Okay, so in this video, let's start out by talking about some definitions. Now, who is an unemployed person? If I just ask a layman who is an unemployed person or what is the definition of unemployment, the obvious answer that I will get is a jobless person is unemployed. Anybody who is not working is an unemployed person. However, according to the formal definition of unemployment, which is the standard definition given by International Labour Organization, the ILO, the standard definition for unemployment is that it is a person without a job. That's the obvious part of the definition, but actively searching. So that part is very important. So there could be a person, let's say a stay-at-home mom, who does not have a job but is also not searching for a job right now. Then she will not be considered unemployed at this point in time. So it is important not just to be jobless, but it is also important to be actively searching for a job. Now, what does it mean by actively searching? Active search means that the person should have looked for a job in the last 4 weeks. That is the definition that is given by the ILO. Now, an employed person is a person who works either full-time or part-time. Now, in this case, full-time work means working at least 35 hours per week, and part-time work means working at least 20 hours per week. So that means an employed person is anybody who works at least 20 hours or more during a week. Once again, that is the standardized definition of employment or an employed person. And when you add these two groups together, when you add up the number of people employed and the number of people unemployed in a country, then you get the labor force of a country, where the labor force is denoted by the letter capital L. Okay, same as labor. So the labor force of a country is the total volume of people who are either working full time, that is at least 35 hours per week, or part time, that is at least 20 hours per week, or anybody who currently does not have a job but is actively looking for a job. Now, based on these definitions, we have some rates. Now, always you can understand we need a rate because working with a percentage number is always easier. If you try to find the number of unemployed people, the number of unemployed people in a country will be a large number, right? It will be a big absolute number. The same will be for the employed people and the same for the labor force, because those are absolute numbers. Now, as soon as you find a rate, it comes down to a percentage figure, a much more manageable numerical value, and that's why it is always easier to compare macroeconomic situations either within your country or across country based on certain rates. So the unemployment rate is basically the number unemployed. Now, these formulae are very important for you. You will have numerical problems to work on based on these formulae. So the number unemployed divided by the labor force, that is the unemployment rate, where the labor force is basically the number employed plus number unemployed. So basically the formula boils down to the number unemployed divided by the number unemployed plus the number of employed people, because if you see, the definition of labor force is number employed plus number unemployed. Similarly, you can find the employment rate I will remove that line to avoid any confusion. So the employment rate is just that, it is the number of employed people in a country divided by the labor force. of the country. So it is basically the number employed divided by the number unemployed plus the number employed. So basically unemployment rate and employment rate are proportion of the labor force that are employed or unemployed. You are just finding it as a fraction of the total labor force of the country. Now besides unemployment rate and employment rate, there is something which is also equally important, which is called the labor force participation rate. Now in the next video we will talk about the labor force participation rate and why it is an important indicator of the labor structure, the labor market of a country.